All right, welcome back. It's been almost a month since we've been
Almost
on
a
here
month,
playing.
yeah.
We had West Coast school in between and a few vacations and other things happened, but we're back. So we're going to have some fun today. We're going to talk a little bit about a couple of different things, mainly how to fix things that go bad on your computer or on Photoshop. But first, let's go ahead and share screen. Yeah, make that small so I can see where I'm going. Hey, would you look at that? First thing up shows West Coast School 2025. So we have some okay instructors there. Photoshop 0 to 60 in a week again. I'd love to have some of you guys in my class so you can keep me under control. Mel would probably like to have you in my class to keep me under control. We got Sandra Pierce, Photoshop painting with the twist. She's always got a great class going on. Joe Glida, commercial photography demystified. I would love to take Joe Glida's class. So if I get kicked out of Photoshop, then I'll go to Joe Glida's class. Scott Detweiler, I heard nothing but good about his class this year. The AI class was just amazing. Suzette Allen hasn't been there for a long time. She is back doing video skills for photographers. Should be a fun class. Mr. Rezak, the one and only soft light, hard light, window light, strobe light, lighting done right light. And then last but not least, Michael Gordon talking about nature and landscape photography. Should be an interesting class. So that is all there is for West Coast School for next year, June 8th through the 13th, the Hyatt Regency in Valencia. For those that didn't go this year, the Hyatt Regency was fantastic. It was sleeping in beds where you could sleep was fantastic. They got a nice restaurant in the hotel, so you could have breakfast. They had how many restaurants in the within a block, Mel? 25?
Probably at least 15.
There's a bunch. I mean, you could pick and choose your restaurant that you want to go to. The weather was not bad, 70s and 80s most of the time. Um, for those that didn't go because it wasn't USD, you missed out on a great week. Hyatt Regency is a great place to have it, and we're going to do it again this year. So mark your calendars, June 8th through the 13th, 2025. So let's go ahead and get into having issues in Photoshop. Of course we are. We always do. The first one is you're using the remove tool, and instead of removing and taking things away, it paints with green or some other color. And you go, what the heck is going on? Well, what happens is when you go to preferences, you go to image processing and then go to the remove tool processing. You want to put more stable as your default. The only reason I knew how to fix that is because when I first used the remove tool, it did that, and I had to research it and find out, and that's what it was. There's two to move quicker or more stable. More stable is where you want to go with that. So if you have that issue, go to Preferences, Image Processing, Remove Tool Processing, and make it more stable. Your oil paint, which is in the stylized part of the filters, is grayed out. Your flames, picture frame, trees are all grayed out. Why? What happens is you go into Preferences, Performance. On the right-hand side, you have Use Graphics Processor. Click on that, and everything is perfect. It all comes back. How many times have I done that? Sometimes when you update, it unclicks the graphic processor, so you got to re-click it to get it going back again. Paste Funky. This is something that I discovered at Texas School. One of the students, every time he pasted something into the um, file, it would come up weird like this. So what happened was, let me hit escape on here, Command W, don't save, Control new. He would click on 10 by 8 at 300. Well, what he didn't realize was he was clicking on pixels and not inches. So when he opened it, 10 by 8, it opened that big. And as he added a file in there, copied and pasted into there, it would come up looking like that. So if you have that issue, take a look at your settings. 10 by 8, cool, but it has to be inches and not pixels, because 10 pixels by 8 pixels is kind of a small file. Has anybody ever done that before? It took me forever to figure out why it did that. Select subject versus cloud versus desktop. I'm going to show an example here. Let me go back to, let's go to bridge. And of course, my settings are in the wrong place. Okay, come on. You can do this. There we go. And let's go to my desktop, to July. And we got this guy. Open him up. I'm going to show you a little experiment here. Let's close our 10 by 8, and we're going to do a image duplicate. And somebody was having trouble making a selection with this donkey. So she asked me to take a look, see what I could do. And I had trouble with it before. Right now, my settings on select subject are iCloud for the first one. So let's go ahead and select subject. Give it a second. And it does take a little bit longer in the cloud than it does when you do it on your computer. And it's taking very long today. There we go. And then we'll do the same thing with this one. We'll change it to device, select subject. And anybody wants to buy me a new computer, I'll be happy to take it. To show you what it selected in this one, I'm going to hit quick mask, Q for quick mask. And that's everything that's not red is showing up in quick mask. That's what's selected. So let's go to the other one and we'll do the same thing, quick mask. You can see in this one, in fact, let's do this. Let's go to window, arrange, tile all vertically. And you can see the difference between the two. The one on the left is select subject in the cloud, which took a little bit longer, but you see the tree is not selected. The back of this donkey is not selected. On the right, it was select subject using the device. The tree got selected, the donkey got selected, and you got a whole bunch more selection. So what you do is you go to select subject, and you go to preferences, image processing, go to select subject and remove background. Click on cloud to make it your default. Once you do that, let's go ahead and show you real quick. Right here at the top, you have device, which is quicker, cloud, which is more detailed. Definitely do the cloud. It's worth the extra 1.5 seconds to 2 seconds that you have to wait for it. If you want to change it while you're using Photoshop, you can, and then every time you do it, it goes back to the default. but if I click on device right now, it'll do device. And then it automatically defaults back to cloud. So you don't have to keep it in cloud all the time.
You have to be on the connected to the internet to do that, correct?
Yes, otherwise you can't get to the cloud.
Yeah. Well, the reason I say this is Sherry and I were teaching on a cruise for a group out of Texas, and half
Oh,
the people could not perform or do their because they could not get the internet on the cruise. So that really kind of screwed things up. But I'm just that's another thing. Make sure that there's connection.
thank you
They
for bringing that up, Dennis. I agree. In fact, every time I speak, I got to make sure that we have internet connection, because if you're doing AI, if you're doing cloud stuff, you have to have internet connection to pull that off.
Well, is the hotspot strong enough to carry that?
If you don't mind waiting, it's going to
Well,
take a
okay.
while if you're using your phone as a hotspot. Can't brush something. Well, there are times when you make a selection and you look on the picture on the left and you go, there's nothing selected. Why is it not allowing me to brush? You go up to the top, you look at your toolbar at the top, and it says everything looks normal, 100% opacity, all that good stuff. But then when you look on the image on the right, which you can actually see on the left as well, barely, there's a selection around this wheel here. That little selection means you're not going to paint anywhere but within that wheel. So if there's a little spark like behind the wagon there, let's go ahead and go to Photoshop and do that. Close these guys out. Don't save. Don't save. Go to bridge. Go to that image. And we're going to zoom in a little bit. If you accidentally hit this spot right here and made a selection somehow, so if I hit my lasso tool, you're looking at the image going, there is no reason for it not to paint. So I hit B for brush, and I brush, and I brush, and nothing's happening. Why is nothing happening? Because this is the only area it's going to allow you to brush. You can see it'll finally take that where I put it there. So if you go across the top toolbar, nothing's happening like it's supposed to happen, the next thing to do is hit Command or Control D, or go up to Select, Deselect, and that will make it easier for you to work. Yes,
Will escape do the same thing?
Escape will not do the same thing.
Okay.
So let's go ahead and lasso. Well, let's make this a nice big lasso. If I hit Escape, nothing happens.
Control Z.
Command, I can do Command D, Control D. I can go up to Select, Deselect, or Command or Control Z will undo what you did. So it undo the selection.
What about Control H?
Control A will
H.
get you. Control H.
Yeah.
I have mine set up so Control H will make Photoshop disappear.
Okay.
Shift Control H, I think, is it will hide the selection, but it's still selected.
Hmm.
So if you have this selection here, and we go to, oh, there's a shortcut. I forget where it's at in there. It's been a while. Select. There's a way to turn the selection off so it's not showing, but it's still selected. And I don't remember where it's at. It used to be Control H or Command H, or you could also do Shift Command H. Yeah, here we go. Under Show Selection Edges. So I turn that off. It's still, I'm trying to paint on the airplane right now, not working. And there's my selection. Even though the edges are not showing, it's still selected.
Well, that's where it's good to bring down the select menu, because if deselect isn't as an option, then you don't have a selection.
Exactly. It's weird going, wait a minute, why? Why? And sometimes it happens. I mean,
I've accidentally just touched, touched it down and one pixel selected somewhere and I can't find it. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, it does that. And it's like, why? I'm trying to think of, never mind. We're not even going to try to go there. My brain's not working today. So when you're troubleshooting, number one, check to make sure you're in the correct tool, or if your tool's not working, Command D to deselect, Control D. Check the top toolbar settings. Make sure that you're painting with the 100% opacity, the opacity that you want to paint in. You're in normal mode or whatever mode you want to be in. And then also check to make sure you're on the right tool. Sometimes I hit B for brush and it doesn't quite get there, and it's still in the wrong tool, and just things happen. Okay, rasterize. This type layer must be rasterized before proceeding. Okay, do not, under any circumstance, rasterize your text. The reason being is once you rasterize, you cannot edit text. So you go in, rasterize it, and then 7, 8 steps later, you realize I got a typo in my text layer. So if you rasterize it, you got to go back those 7 or 8 steps and do it all over again. If you make it a smart object, you can change it. So instead of rasterizing, change it to a smart object, you're good to go. Keyboard shortcuts. Hopefully everybody's using keyboard shortcuts to the maximum. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. One of the things, let's go ahead and go to my lasso tool. I'm going to lasso the tail here. While I'm in the lasso tool, I'm going to hit Z for zoom. I'm holding zoom down, zooming in, let go of zoom, and it goes back to the lasso tool. That's what's called spring loaded, so that you can go from one tool to the other without having to type the letter in again. So here, I lassoed the tail, held the zoom key down, and zoomed in where I wanted to be, let go, and it went back to the lasso tool. Well, what happened was when I would hit B for brush, it would bounce back to the zoom tool because it thought I was doing the spring-loaded tools. So instead of going to the brush tool, it would bounce back. I'm going, why? Well, what happened was when they did an update about a year ago, they changed the timing on the spring-loaded tool shortcuts from, I don't know what it was before, but they changed it down to 200. So if you held it down too long, it would bounce back. So what I do is I go into preferences, go into tools, and at the bottom of the tools has spring-loaded tool shortcuts. I set it to somewhere between 700 and 800. It doesn't have to be precise, but it has to be enough to where if you hold the key down for just a second, it's not going to change it back. So if you have trouble with that, go into your preferences, into tools, spring-loaded tool shortcuts, set it to 750, 800, whatever you want to do. How many people are missing some of their legacy shapes? When you go into your shapes, let me deselect this critter, and we'll go into U, which is the keyboard shortcut for shapes. And I use arrows a lot, especially when I am doing tutorials. So if I go to arrows, open up, I got a bunch of arrows where I can make an arrow anytime I want. If you don't have your legacy shapes in there, they're not going to work. So you go up here and you go to your shape panel and go, okay, that's not there. Let's go here, our custom shapes. and there are no presets or your legacy shapes in there. What you have to do is you have to go to Window, down to Shapes. When you bring up your shapes, which is this box, go to the drop-down menu, Legacy Shapes and More, and then you can add those in. Otherwise, you're stuck with leaves, wild animals, and boats. And if you have more than, like I've got 3 legacy shapes and more now, so I'm going to select those 2, hit the trash can and say delete them. So now I've got my legacy shapes and more, and all my default shapes, which is arrows and all kinds of stuff, animals, artistic textures, little things like that are in there now. So let's get out of that, go here, get rid of the arrow, take it to the trash, say goodbye, and back to PowerPoint again. Any questions on that one? So if you're missing your shapes that you think you should have, go to Window, down to Shapes, open up the Shapes panel, and go to the drop down and click on Legacy Shapes and More. Okay, let's go ahead and do a selection on quick selection tool. And I selected the tail, or the dark portion of the tail here. A lot of times there's some of the selection tools, when you go into them, they're set to feather. And once you get a feather, it's like, okay, why is that not doing like I want it to? Such as, let's do the lasso tool. Command D to deselect. I'm going to take my lasso tool, set it to 50 pixels on the feather, and I'm going to lasso with my mouse. Not very accurate, but it's working, semi-working. No pixels were more than 50% selected. That's because it was too big. Okay, let's go to 20 so you can see an example. And you can see it rounded off. So now your selection is so rounded, if you tried to fill it with white paint, it would turn off like totally weird. So let's undo that, go back a step, change it to feather of 0. Do the same thing, super accurate selection, fill it with white, and now you can see we have a very sharp selection there. So if your selection is not coming up right, take a look at the top toolbar. What's your feather set at? And then if it's set more than 1 pixel, then you got a problem with it. Okay, let's move on. Free transform is not working right. Okay, let's go ahead and open up this image and this image. And I'm going to go to Tools, Photoshop, load into Photoshop layers. Open, 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 open. There we go. And I want to make the moon fit in like it should. So we're going to go to screen or light. Let's go with screen. That works the best. And Command T, Control T to free transform. If, turn that guy off. Move my layers back over where they belong. If you try to do a transformation and all of a sudden you're not being constrained, so it's getting all kinds of funky on you, there is a reason for that. If you look at the top toolbar where it has width at 100% and height at 100%, there is a link between the two. So if you click on the link, the link is highlighted now. So back in the old days, you would hold the shift key down to make it be constrained. And then 4 or 5 years ago, they changed it to where shift key will make it unconstrained. So you can
I
flatten.
hated that swap.
You know what? I complained for years and years about that, having to hold the shift key. I'm going, why do you have to do that? Then they
Yeah.
changed it. And it's like muscle memory automatically go to shift.
Exactly. I mean, it makes more sense now, but
Yeah.
it took me years to get
It
used to
took
it.
forever. But now it's where it should be. And just now that we know how to fix it, if they changed it again, I'd go ballistic. But make sure that your link is selected up here. If the link is highlighted, it's going to give you a constraint so everything goes like it's supposed to. And then also what you can do, this little center dot here, you put it on the spot you want it. If you hold the Option or Alt key, it will go inward from all 4 directions, keeping it constrained and going inward. And if you move that dot, let's move it down to the right corner, and you spin, it spins the whole thing around on that dot. So wherever you put that dot, it will spin. And if you don't want the dot, you go up here and click the dot off. If you don't have the dot and you want the dot, click the dot on, and it will start in the middle, and you can make it go anywhere you want it to go. Questions about that one? Okay. That actually popped up last week. Somebody asked me about that. I wasn't going to snitch you off, Mel.
It's all right. It's all good.
But it's funny because I just talked about it the week before. It's the ASP one, which you just happen to be sleeping in. Anyway, check the link up there to make sure it's working. Is your save as not working? I think we've talked about this a couple of times already. You can only save, when you do a save as, you can only do these, 8 different settings: Photoshop, PSD, PSB, JPEG 2000. Has anybody ever used a JPEG 2000? I don't even know what it does. Anyway, if only those 8 show up, then what you do is you go into the preferences, into file handling, and right here is enable legacy save as. Click on that, and that will bring you, I didn't save that one. That will give you every save that you've got that you've wanted. Also, while you're at it, automatically save recovery information every. I have mine set to 5 minutes. I think default is 10, but I set mine to 5 because how much stuff do you do in that 5 minutes or in that 10 minutes? And then your computer crashes and you've lost 5 or 10 minutes worth of work. That 5 minutes can make a difference between getting crazy or just, okay, we got this. So your preference, your call. Automatically save recovery information. I have mine set to 5 minutes. Mask not working. Okay, let's go back to Photoshop. Bring this guy in. Click OK. Lock him in. Put a mask on there. And then I go to brush. B for brush. Let's do a nice bright red color so you can see where I'm going. And nice big brush. And for some reason, my mask is not working. I just put a mask on there. Well, what happened was right here on my layer panel, the layer is what is selected. It's got a black line around it. If you click on the mask, then the mask is selected and you can paint OK. So make sure if it's not working right, check on your mask over here. If it's on the mask and you're painting and it's not working, check your toolbar at the top, because if you're in lighten mode and you try to paint with black and lighten mode, even at 100%, your mask is not going to work. If you're in multiply, it kind of works okay, but you definitely want to make sure that you're in normal mode when you're doing a mask. And you also want to check your opacity, make sure you're 100% or whatever opacity you want to paint at. And then also, you can paint with gray on a mask, which will cut your opacity down a little bit. So if you're trying to get rid of a little bit there, go ahead and use gray. And if you want to paint it back in, hit X and paint with white to bring it back. Kind of weird, but that seems it works. So here's an example. The one on the left, the layer is actually selected. The one on the right, the mask is selected. So missing tools. How many times have you gone to your toolbar and you're looking for the eraser tool? Well, my eraser tool is not in there. And believe it or not, neither's the pen tool. That's because I have taken them out. So what you can do is you can go to Edit, down to Toolbar, and you have your eraser tool. You can slide it back in, or you can keep it out, whatever you. If you're missing a tool, check the right-hand side and then add it back in. So, just for information, let's go.
How many M's do you need in missing tools?
I need 2 because I have one of my S's is missing, so I have 2 M's and 1
Okay.
S.
Just checking.
Okay. Yes, I can't type. I understand that. Is this better?
That's better.
Okay. Contextual taskbar is missing. I love my contextual taskbar, especially if I'm doing AI stuff. I keep it at the bottom. Some people will put it at the top. I keep looking for it when I put it at the top, so I just leave it at the bottom because that's where I started at. If you're missing your contextual taskbar, you go to Window, down to the bottom, click on contextual taskbar, and then it shows up. For those that haven't used contextual taskbar, you can do all kinds of cool stuff with it. Right now, if I click on select, oh, I'm on a mask, that's why it's saying that. Let's go ahead and make a new layer. Click plus, make a new layer, thank you. And then I'm going to take M for marquee, make a marquee across here, click on generative fill, and click generate. I'm not even going to tell it what to put in there. I'm going to see what it does, just for fun. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. Huh, that's interesting. Okay. You never know what you're going to get. So
Have you tried using the crop tool instead of drawing the marquee outtake and draw your crop tool out and then extend that out and extend the horizon out?
yes, I have. And it works.
Like
Probably
that
said-
just did?
Sometimes, yeah. Well, let's do this. Let's close this guy. Command W, don't save. And we'll go back to this guy. Whoops. Go back. Thank you. Command 0. And I'm going to add, well, let's just see what it'll do. C for crop. And no. Clear. There we go. Let's add a little bit to the left-hand side, and up in the top where it says background, generative expand, content aware fill, I'm going to go generative expand, click OK, and let it go. And we'll see how it works. as you do these, the things to remember is, okay, we'll take that. And then before, after. That's actually not bad.
Now do it all the same thing on the building side, just see how it expands on the building.
Okay. Expand it out. Make sure on generative expand. Click OK. It's actually pretty cool. I mean, it can do a lot of things for you. It's getting better and better each time they do it.
It's pretty darn scary how good it is.
Yeah,
Holy
no
cow.
kidding.
Holy cow. Okay, so we have before, after. That's kind of impressive.
Won't need to do
But-
my panel shots anymore, huh?
Why bother?
You know, it's interesting. It's the other day I had a client that, they moved a little bit and part of their elbow was missing and on the background, and I just did that and it built in their elbow with the right color dress and everything. It was amazing.
It's it blows me away the stuff that it can do now. However, the thing to remember is you get monthly generative credits. So right now I'm on the cheap $9.99 plan and I get 250 credits a month. So if I'm doing work for somebody and doing a lot of retouching, a lot of generative fill, it's going to eat up my credits. If you have the $19.99 one, it's 500 credits a month. And if you have the educational version, you get 1,000 credits a month. So when I go out
Of course,
teaching,
right now they're not charging at the moment because I have 0 left. I was doing some work and it says, well, you can keep going for a limited time.
yeah, they haven't got to the point where they're going to start charging yet, but it's, well, you can see buy credits, it's right around the corner. So
Yeah.
Is that per month or going to be per year, or how's that going to be?
Per-
Or just
per month.
per usage?
this is monthly generative credits. You get 250 a month. So if you go in and you use the AI on here, you're going to use a credit for each time you do it. If you're working on the same thing and rerun, so let's say on this one, if I decide I want to change it, I'm going to rerun it and hit generate again, then it will not charge you again because you're rerunning this one over again. If you use Adobe Firefly, then every time you do Firefly, you burn a credit because you have to sign in to use Firefly, which is totally creative stuff. It's amazing what that stuff can do too. So just let you know it's around the corner. So if you're missing contextual taskbar, just go up to the top and come down to the tools down or window down to contextual taskbar and click it on. And if you happen to be missing your tools on the left hand side, which somebody had that happen recently, just go up to Windows, down to Tools. Or if you accidentally make them disappear, you can hit Escape and nothing happens. You go, why did my tools disappear? Because you hit the Tab button. When you hit Tab, everything disappears except for your image. And that is the end of the slideshow from PowerPoint. Don't save, say goodbye. Any questions on what we covered here today?
Those are great refreshers. Thank you.
Yes, sir. On this one, let's go back to history, open. crop. C for crop. We're going to crop this. And you know what? I'm going to do it the easy way. I'm going to go into Adobe Camera Raw or Camera Raw filter. And you're going, well, what happened to geometry, which used to be at the bottom down here? Well, they moved it to your crop tool. So you just click on A4.
Yeah.
And that did not work.
It doesn't always.
I did it this morning, just playing with it to make sure it was going to work, and it worked just fine.
I wonder if the generative expand messed with it.
It could be, but
Yeah.
normally you just click on the A and everything's perfect. So what I'd have to do is go in here and tell it to
Good.
and that leveled it out. There's
You can
also
use your ruler tool too with a line on, draw a line under your ruler tool under the eyedropper. And
you
do
can
the same
also
thing.
do in the crop tool, they have the straighten up here. So you can straighten it that way. And then you got the ruler tool and the eyedropper. And is it the same way here? Just drag it across?
You gotta go up to edit and then go to rotate and arbitrary.
Okay, that's too complicated for my brain.
Oh no, it
Too
isn't.
many steps.
One step is all I want.
You know, I'm just trying to give you a different
I
options.
know.
I know about those.
In Photoshop, there's 10 different ways of doing everything. So yeah, I agree. So, okay, I use the ruler tool, go up to
Go up to
edit.
edit.
Uh-huh.
I mean, image. Image and auto image rotate. Go down to image rotate.
Image rotation.
Okay, image rotate. Then go down to arbitrary, and it's going to tell you how many degrees it's going to change it.
Oh, gee.
And there it is.
Okay. That works, but for me, just using the crop tool works just fine for me. So coolness. All right.
Just
Any other-
saying, there's a lot of competition prints that could use any of those four ways of doing things. Just saying.
Well, I was looking at somebody's image the other day and told them to straighten this horizon line. I won't
It's
just
the
mention-
little
barely-
things.
It just barely had to open it up and you criticize. Oh man. Well, with all being fair, I'm surprised you even noticed the horizon line.
Yeah. So cool. Any other questions out there, guys and ladies and guys?
Michael, get off Dwight's shoulder.
Don't make me break out my Dwight pictures. Okay, no questions, going once, going twice. We're going to stop the recording.